Okay, going live. The preamble, sorry, I have to. I had been watching a lot of, rom-coms and stuff through my life, but in film school, I don't remember us really watching a lot. It wasn't all artsy-fartsy movies, but, kind of a lot more. And I think that the average viewer of, the fan base of the original film of this Prada now series, I guess, they're all pushing 40, right? So chances are, if you're a college age person, or even if you're not, you've never had this movie properly explained to you. Maybe some gal who's now a house mom, will tell you her favorite scenes. Oh, I love the part when blah, blah, blah. That doesn't, necessarily, it's not something to be discounted completely, but, it doesn't tell the full story, how to structure a screenplay and all that. Okay. So for those of you who thought this was a movie review, for some reason it's not. This is my sequel to my previous video that didn't get enough views, probably because there was so much content about the movie coming out at the time that, I got some notice, but not enough in the algorithm, got buried. So maybe now that the film's been out for a while, people will find this one and then can find that one, which is a lot more comprehensive. But when I was making that one, I had all this other stuff, thoughts and stuff that I, just put in the description and thought, I'd get some comments about it. And I don't know, if you're the one person who read it, then this will be redundant to you, I guess, because most of this is just going to be me reading that, because those are the thoughts that I had, and I haven't changed my opinion on my own thoughts in the last month and a half or whatever. So that would be episode 30 of the Practical Movies, which is a separate playlist than my other typical, boots and hats content and that kind of stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, more preamble, again, if you're a fangirl of this movie, then I don't know if you'll find merit in this or not. But even if you are a young man or a man and you just want to write movies, then, this is more up your alley. Some of the content creators that I thought would really have something to say about the sequel didn't. I don't know if they were totally ambivalent or they thought it was just going to be crap and didn't even watch it or what. I didn't watch a ton of content related to the new movie. I haven't watched the new movie. I'm not really worried about it. It's not really important right now. But again, just so you know that this is, again, my sequel to my video regarding more of the side characters than the relationship between Miranda and Anne Hathaway's character, of course. This is more about Emily and her than Andi and Miranda. I was brain farting Andi, but okay. Andrea. So anyway, but yeah, I've wondered or I was going to make this video last week, and then I kind of didn't get around to it, which doesn't really matter. But I keep also thinking I should contact, some of these colleges like UCLA or someplace and tell them that, obviously the movies that are coming out are so bad that maybe their screenwriting teachers should be fired and replace me with one, with one of them at least. But then I'd have to read a bunch of horrible student writing and everybody would get an F. And so, when their graduation rate goes from 90 to 20, I'd just get fired anyway, right? No, you're supposed to tell them how great they are and send them out into the world, right? Okay, well, anywho, so just to let you know where I'm coming from, that's what the focus of this. Now, so this just starts cold because like I said, I already made that whole video, so that's only 20 minutes long, by the way. It's not like a super long lecture like some of my other product or content or So it just jumps in here, and I like I said, I forget kind of where the springboard should be. But speaking of Andi, and her relationship with Miranda, but also her relationship with Emily begins with, and even the Stanley Tucci character, in fact, they all look down on her for being not fashionable. And so it's very important to, address that in other places. Like I said, I talked about that more in the other one. But here, I just, started with, yes, it's good to look presentable at work and even be competent, but should a journalist really be judged on their wardrobe and body type or their industry connections more than their actual skill as a writer? Inquiring minds want to know, is Andi supposed to learn humility or hubris? Okay, so that was kind of the focus of the previous one. So then, not quite directly related to that, but again, her relationship with these other characters who already exist in this bubble world, and she's that fish out of water. So also, typically, if some huge thing is to occur, like introducing some foil, we typically expect a bit more foreshadow. This is about the guy, the love interest. Okay, not Emily, but we typically expect a bit more foreshadowing than just ram it all in at the end, sidelining Emily instead, when that confrontation never really quite boils over where it could be, with them vying for Miranda's attention or affection. And Andi sort of wins by default in the, again, what we think is going to be the big subplot that they kind of diminish in a way. Wins by default after scenes where she is besting Emily more organically, blah, blah, blah. And that's where I failed to include the phrase deus ex machina regarding the taxi cab incident, of course. Because the taxi cab incident might be funny. I mean, the scene I always remember is just Emily talking to the blonde gal, and maybe the blonde gal is some model, and I don't know her name, so the reference was lost on me. But I always thought it was, a shame that the most attractive gal had like the least amount of screen time and only one little line in the movie. I wanted more of the blonde gal. Anyway, that's just from a viewer standpoint. That has nothing really to do with writing. But yeah, so when this taxi cab incident happens, it's already kind of after it. It's after the punch. I mean, the movie seems to work for the fangirls again and whatever. They don't deconstruct the thing. But Emily already knows she's been demoted to number 2 below Andi as soon as Miranda throws the handbag on her desk instead of Andi's desk. So that already happened a while ago, and because Emily had the cold and couldn't remember and brain farted the name and all that at the party. So this idea, even Miranda's trying to punch this home, that there's this moral dilemma that Andi's facing, but it's really a false moral dilemma there when Andi succeeds at the job that, she does not really want this job, nor even like, the job. Her clearly intellectually inferior, superior coworker, gets the shaft, but like everybody already saw it happening, and how did Andi miss it? The only reason the guilt trip works, I guess, is if Andi is stupid and clueless. When I thought Emily was supposed to be the stupid, clueless one. So, kind of a plot hole there, kind of an issue. So Miranda guilt trips her after the fact, but like I said, getting hit by the taxi is just an extra comedy bit that does not really advance the plot, nor really affect their strained relationship as much as implied. Because when Andi comes to the hospital room and sees her leg in the cast, of course she feels bad, but and this is where Emily is allowed to be, petulant and all that, but she was just grateful to Andi for bailing her out at the celebrity ball. But that was also when she, like I said, had the flu and was brain farting at the crucial time. So I don't know why she's grateful there when Andi steps in and makes her look bad, because that plus the illness would still be the reason she's not the one going to Paris, again, that everybody else would have already figured out. She's been superseded by her rival that was her underling a week before, literally like days, in the timeline of the thing. Clearly, Miranda does not see Andi bailing out Emily as a good thing and knows that she cannot rely on Emily in a pinch now, which makes Andi all the more indispensable. So, of course, she would want to hang on to Andi, and I don't know why she's... again, the motivation with the Miranda and the Andi stuff isn't as plot holy overall as this hiccup. But why Emily thanks Andi and warms to her at all now is just her being clueless, I guess, like I said. But like I also said, Andi being clueless in an even bigger way, sort of, because she knows Miranda better than Andi does, or, you know, thinks she does, or has known her longer at least. She shouldn't be too surprised. The dressing down scene when, okay, going back then in the video or film, the dressing down scene when Andi is ridiculed about the vast difference between the two belts is about what the only time that, this is relating to Andi hating this job. And they keep, and Miranda acting like, how dare you not love this? And Stanley Tucci even acting like, how dare you not love this? More so than even Emily. But this is the only time when Miranda pretends that she intends to listen to anybody else's opinion really in the first place. Well, there's the one scene when they're all sitting around the table and Emily comes in with the tissue and Stanley Tucci is the only one who, you know, has something useful to say because everything else she's just dismissing out of hand. But in this earlier scene, it's really just a trap to demoralize her victim or whatever. But the other characters also argue about consumerism and other related topics as to whether, you know, Andi's friends argue about whether she's a sellout or what her true nature of personality versus the dragon lady, etc. So most of that is work on, most of that stuff, that should be a different word. Most of that stuff works on whatever level fine enough that these other things get, you know, skipped in the process of the film. Like they never really come back to a scene similar to that belt scene that I can recall. We just see that Andi now knows which scarves go on the cart. Like, oh, okay, so she's savvy enough to have figured out yellow versus blue or whatever. But, you know, after how many weeks or months. But there's no real scene where Miranda ever asks for her actual opinion regarding that stuff, where Andi's trying to give her the heads up is regarding all that espionage intrigue. Nothing to do with fashion, once again. Just, you know, Miranda might get replaced with a woman who's dumb. Okay, well, why is that Andi's problem? She might lose her job, but she doesn't even like her job. As I said, you can draw your own conclusions as to whether the film addresses or resolves these dilemmas, or is it just there to sell products to young gals, same as the real life versions of such magazines? And now we don't even have magazines, we have influencers, right? Also hints at issues with eating disorders, but totally sanitizes and also omits any aspect of other addictions in the modeling world, etc. I'm still unsure if Andi has now learned enough and qualified to design her own magazine, but still decides she wants to be a lowly copywriter, for a news publication instead, but still does not get stuck with obituaries and other back page stuff like Andrew McCarthy and the St. Elmo's Fire, which is what most beginning writers are going to have to do, is all this suck it up kind of stuff. Although in that movie, Kevin's first byline also seems to come surprisingly early in his actual career. Yay, movies, right? But nobody was questioning that because it actually, well, it wasn't directly related to the plot, but you know what I'm talking about. It was a bonding moment between him and Ali Sheedy's character that gets sidelined, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, okay. Sorry. We're almost done, so I might as well type this. But I think that bonding moment kind of gets interrupted by Demi Moore's issues anyway. So, yeah, that was kind of the end there. I was going to say, feel free to include criticism of Maggie Haberman winning Pulitzer Prize for fraudulent coverage of Russia scandal because she got promoted out of the lifestyle segment to hard news for some reason, and it was all, debunked. Oh, I forgot to say Professor Gloomy at the start too, and coming to you live from a funny location. I'm just adding stuff to my old video. So, like I said, this was kind of side character stuff, but still kind of derails some of the meaning of the film or whatever they thought they were telling us. Like I said, most people see it as a minor hiccup, but it does become a plot point issue when you've seen the movie more than once, and just start to notice these things. So again, the whole point of this is, yes, the movie was successful. Yes, the fan base is there. Yes, I can't, say 20 years later that, nobody liked this movie, because obviously they did. But if you wanted to nowadays write a better movie, how would you approach that? Obviously, I can't spoon feed you all the answers, but I can point out these things. So as always, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. As always, I activated that buy me a coffee thing if you're finding this and think it's useful. Again, I think the other video, I went a little more into depth into some of the stuff. This one, I was kind of trying to remember what I was talking about before. And just, like I said, hoping to get some eyeballs to, get you to go watch that one. Not more than this one necessarily, but maybe. Okay. And of course, as always, the whole boycott Tinder thing, that's not just for guys. Again, just like this video isn't just for girls or women or females or whatever. So they definitely do not have your romantic interests at heart. I don't know if it's rotten from the top down or from the ground up, but somewhere in the middle, there's a big problem anyway, and it's a topic for another day.